Hi, I'm making this video because I I want to tell my personal Benzo story. I'm used to uploading videos on my Facebook on my Facebook where someone else is explaining what all this is like, benzo withdrawal syndrome or benzodiazepine withdrawal syndrome. I've uploaded other videos to my page with other people talking about things that I can relate to. And I'm still going to post those videos. But I want to post one that's more personal to me for those that love me and care about me and want to know what exactly I'm going through. Perhaps they don't. Um, for several reasons, I haven't really been totally honest about everything. I don't go and talk about what I'm going through all the time. A lot of that is me trying to stay positive through this hellish experience. And a lot of that is me not wanting, people that care about me, especially my parents, to worry. So, I think with my parents, I've been the least honest about what I'm going through because I didn't want them to worry. Because this is something to worry about. Someone you love going through this is something to worry about. It's called benzodiazepine withdrawal syndrome. It is not the same thing as benzodiazepine withdrawal alone. Benzodiazepine withdrawal alone could take you a few weeks to a few months to come off. You have some withdrawal, and then it's over. And with the syndrome, it's a completely different story. We're not talking about weeks. We're not talking about months. We are talking about years. Years of struggling, years of tapering, and that's what I've been going through. In my younger years, in my early 20s, I'd started drinking alcohol about two weeks before my 20th birthday. The first time that I got drunk, I had finally felt like I was free from the anxiety that I had had my whole life. I had my first panic attack when I was a little girl, and my mom was working third shift, and I remember me and my dad were watching MASH one night, and I just suddenly had a panic attack. I thought I was going to die, and I remember telling him, I'm going to die. I feel like I'm going to die. And my dad asking me, don't talk like that. Him saying, does your stomach hurt? Does your head hurt? And, I was about, 5 at the time, and I didn't know about panic attacks. I never had one. This was my first one. I didn't know nothing about it. All I knew was an impending doom feeling I had that I was going to die. And I off and on struggled with anxiety growing up. But when I got older and I discovered drinking, I realized that, anybody who's ever, people who drink, that you don't really have anxiety when you're drunk. You freeze your inhibitions. And I'm not here to say that people who drink alcohol are bad people or alcoholics. But, some of us become alcoholics. And that's what happened to me. I'm not downing anybody who drinks. I'm just saying, me personally, I became an alcoholic. I stopped drinking when I found out I was pregnant with my son. I hadn't been drinking that long at the time, but I stopped drinking as soon as I found out I was pregnant with him, I stopped drinking. And about 2 months after he was born, I started back. He was being babysat a lot next door, right next door. So he was right there next door, but I still wasn't being the mother I should have been. Obviously, you don't get drunk like every night. When you have a baby, you just don't do that. And now I have 8 years. Since December 5th will be 9 years since I've had my last drink. Something I am proud of, but at the same time, I don't really crave alcohol. But I did have to go through detox from alcohol because I did drink every day. And I did that for a few years. And I messed myself up there. But it's easy to do that kind of thing, when, you find something you've been going through your whole life and having anxiety and struggling with it. I never struggled with depression, but I had anxiety. And, so drinking seemed to help. Well, then it got to the point after a few years of me being incredibly stupid. I was not a fun drunk. I wasn't a fun-loving drunk. I was dramatic. I did a lot of stupid things, that I look back on now, and I'm not proud of anything at all during that time. But I'm going to tell you what happened. When I went to stop drinking, I remember it was Thanksgiving, and I was living with my husband and father-in-law. And it's Thanksgiving, and all of a sudden, I couldn't drink enough to get myself calmed down. And I had a big bottle of the cheapest vodka that you could get. It's a big aristocrat bottle, plastic bottle. And I could not drink enough of it. It got to the point where I couldn't drink enough to calm down, to get the anxiety to go away, to get the detoxing to go away. That's tolerance. So I went to the hospital. There they put me on benzos. I've been prescribed benzos since I was 17, but I would take them as needed then. But after, when I was going through alcohol withdrawal, doctors told me that I needed to take this benzodiazepine. And with a past history of anxiety that I'd had, I would probably need to be on this benzo forever. Klonopin. The thing is, I reached tolerance to everything pretty fast. So, I would reach a tolerance to the benzo dose that I was prescribed, go to the doctor, and they would up the dose. And that happened a few times before I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm starting to get really scared. Because when the tolerance would hit, it would feel like alcohol detox. Or it'd be horrific feelings. And so they told me to take the benzo every day, and that I might need to do that the rest of my life. Probably would. That's what they said. And so I started taking the Klonopin every day, the way it was prescribed. That's one of the biggest things. Most of us suffering through benzodiazepine withdrawal syndrome never took more than was prescribed. This isn't something that gets you high. If you took more than what you were prescribed, you would just fall asleep. It's not even like getting drunk. You just get really sleepy if you take more than you're supposed to. So I never understood how people would use it to try to get some kind of a high off of it or anything like that. I simply use it for anxiety. Coming off the alcohol, I started using it every day. And I didn't realize it, but my body was slowly becoming very dependent upon the Klonopin, which was worse than being dependent on the alcohol. But I didn't know that, because doctors don't tell you of the dangers. Most doctors will not tell you of the dangers of these drugs, these benzodiazepines, the dangers of it, because they want to sell a pill. Big Pharma's got to make that money. Reading a book, I recently learned that they have often made pills before they even had a diagnosis. So then they would, after making a pill, come up with a diagnosis so they can sell the pill, because Big Pharma's got to make that money. People like me are nothing but dollar signs walking around to Big Pharma. They don't care. That is why they do nothing to help people who get in my situation. The tens of thousands of people in the United States alone that are going through this are all being ignored unless they have a really special doctor. And that is what they call benzo wise, and they understand what's going on. You can look up Dr. Heather Ashton. That's her name, Dr. Heather Ashton. She is the leading expert on benzo withdrawal. She opened a clinic, a hospital for people that were going through this, and she came up with the Ashton Manual. That's something that you can look into. You care, to see why it takes so long to taper. I've had previous experiences trying to taper from the Klonopin. When I found out I was pregnant with my daughter was when I realized what was going on with these benzos and how dangerous they are. Because I tried to come off. Obviously, I was pregnant and I didn't want to be on a controlled substance during my pregnancy. I had to see a high-risk OBGYN, and when I was sitting in the office with this woman who specializes in this type of thing, pregnant women who are on medications that they can't just stop. Because when I tried to stop, I tried to quit cold turkey, and on the 4th day I ended up in the emergency room, hooked up to all kinds of heart monitors, and I couldn't get my blood pressure or my heart rate to go down. I could hardly sit still, really could hardly sit still. I was totally freaking out. And so they gave me more Klonopin. I didn't want it. I was pregnant. I was afraid of what it would do to my child. But it was explained to me by this high-risk OBGYN doctor that I would need to stay on the Klonopin for the duration of my pregnancy because I would lose my child and possibly my life, because you don't die from coming off just about anything else. You don't die. You might experience some severe withdrawal, but you don't die from cold turkeying anything but a benzodiazepine. Not heroin, not opiates. You don't die. But in this case, I stood a really good chance of miscarrying. And almost did anyway, because I had to have a cervical stitch put in place so that I wouldn't lose my daughter. Thankfully, when she was born, she had no problems. She was actually a very happy baby. She was a quiet baby for the most part. She was just happy and healthy and perfect all over, just like my son was when he was born. And so I'm so grateful that my daughter was not affected by what I was going through, by the pill that I was having to take. And after having her, I was like, okay, now I gotta come off this drug. But I still had no idea what I was in for. I had no idea how long this was going to take. I had no idea the severity of the symptoms that I was about to endure. And I get into the symptoms. It would take me a while. I might mention more about that later. But I just want to say, going through this, I've been going through this now. My daughter's almost 7. So 7 years and 9 months that I've been going through this. Why has it taken me so long, and why am I still at 6 milligrams of Klonopin? Is because everybody has a different story. Everybody going through this has different struggles. I have a husband that has borderline personality disorder. He is recovering from that. He's in therapy weekly. He's on a mood stabilizer that's seeming to help him a great deal. He's making leaps and strides now in his recovery, which, I hope continues. I'm supporting him because I know that it's a disorder that he has. It's not just him being an asshole. I thought that at first, but I didn't know I didn't know what borderline personality disorder was. But I've seen him struggle with it. I've seen him try everything to try to get better. But nevertheless, when your partner has BPD, borderline personality disorder, they're abusive. They're not intentionally abusive, but it's their fear of abandonment is the main thing. That's the main thing that people going through that have. It's the fear of abandonment. So my husband was always afraid that at some point I was going to wake up and and think that I could do better than him and leave him. So he would have these really scary episodes. They were scary for him. They were scary for me, where he would walk out of the house and we would get into an argument, and instead of being able to process that like an adult and argue and then we work it out, if I raised my voice with him, he would start to feel really scared. You'd have to do your own research about BPD. But he would become very scared that I was going to leave him. And he would rush out of the house. And, sometimes he would come back within a few hours. And then sometimes I'd call the hospital and find out he was there after having tried to overdose. He explained that, knowing what I was going through, he felt like he was only in the way of me recovering. Couldn't be farther from the truth. He wasn't in the way. The BPD was in the way a lot. But he is not BPD. He has it. And convincing him that he's not it, that he just has it, has been difficult. But he's now making leaps and strides in recovery with that. But I also have 2 children who are both intellectually disabled. My daughter, who's about to turn 7, is also autistic. Pretty severely autistic. You can't tell by looking at my children that they have these issues, but within a few minutes of talking to them, especially my daughter, you realize that something is not quite right. And so, I've needed to be more for them because they weren't just more than the average children. They have special extra needs. So I have needed to be there for them in ways that when I was tapering, I couldn't, because I would be bedridden. I would be locking myself up in my bedroom to pace the floor because I had akathisia so bad I couldn't stop, and I didn't want my kids to see it and get worried. Nevertheless, you can only hide so much from your children. My son, his greatest fear is losing his mother. Not necessarily to this, because he doesn't know very much about it. I just tell him, Mommy's sick, and it's going to take Mommy a few years to get better, but I'm going to get better, and it's going to be okay. But he has other fears about something happening to me, car accidents or things like that. It's his greatest fear of losing his mother. If I didn't have my kids, to be completely honest, I would have given up on this, and I would have just thrown in the towel on life. Because the pain, it's not pain, it's agony. It's not fear, it's terror. And it's not being, emotional. It's emotions on crack. So, things that irritate you, would normally irritate you, put you in rage. And you have paranoid thoughts. Your thoughts, as so many other people have said in their videos, your thoughts are not your own. You start having paranoid thoughts that lead to these, obviously would lead to negative feelings. And I've had my fair share of that. And every day for me, every single day has been about just trying to not only survive, but to try to control, to gain some control over my thoughts, rationalize them, and try to put some kind of a lid on my emotions to where it wasn't just spewing out the way that it does. But, those that are closest to me know that that's been really difficult for me. But I'm trying. And so here I am still at 6 milligrams. I've tried tapering 3 times. Every time it was either, my kids needing me, their special needs, things that they had to do, things I had to do for them. That I couldn't just be agoraphobic at home pacing the floor. I had to go places. I had to go to doctor's appointments. I had to go to therapy appointments. I had to go occupational therapy for my kids, speech therapy for my kids. And I had to be able to do that. And I couldn't do that in the withdrawal. Now, if I could come off of this drug in just a month, I would have done it. I would have went to the hospital, whatever it took. But that's not the way it works. Actually, the most dangerous thing you can do, I believe, is go to a hospital to try to detox from a benzodiazepine because purposefully, you know, Big Pharma doesn't have these pharmaceutical reps going to talk to doctors and telling them how severe this is. So you go there and they don't get it. You can't just come off so fast. You actually have to do an extremely slow taper that takes years. And it's going to take me several more years, I'm telling you right now, to come off of this. Because I'm going to have to start, I'm going to start my final attempt at tapering. It's not just going to be an attempt, I'm going to do it. But I'm going to have to go really slow. There's different kinds of tapers. And I've decided to go at the slowest rate I can so that I can try to still be there and be everything that I need for my kids, be everything I need to be for my husband, which he's trying to be everything he can be for me too, and for the kids. But it's really difficult. I'm going to have to go really slow, which means it's going to take me a long time. Hopefully, the symptoms won't be so bad that I just can't seem to live my life. But they're still going to be bad because, as I've heard before, and it's a phrase I use now, there's no cakewalk out of this. You know, there's no going slow enough to where, you know, you can totally just function. Because to get into the science of it, you want to learn about that, look it up. GABA receptors. GABA receptors are in every cell of your body. GABA is a chemical produced by the brain that is pretty much like the brakes to stop you from being angry, to stop you from being overly emotional, to stop you from having rage, you know, panic attacks, all that. Well, when you start taking a benzodiazepine, almost immediately your GABA receptors become downregulated. Then glutamate, which is the opposite of GABA, it's the excitatory response. Chemicals that are released, you know, when something happens. It's to save your life, really. You know, if you're standing in the middle of a road and a truck's coming, you need glutamate so you'll run out of the road, obviously. But when you're trying to come off of a benzo, being that the benzo has taken place of the GABA, your own natural GABA receptors, when you're coming off a benzo, you got to go so slow because you need that GABA to start building back up. It's sort of like this, starting out, you know, glutamate high, GABA's low, and you need that GABA to come up. As the pill goes down, as you go gradually down, this is how it works. Like this, suddenly stopping, doesn't work, and it can kill you. I've known people that have died that way. People that have, for one reason or another, gone to jail, and within a few days they're dead. It's not a joke. It's horrific. And when you're dealing with rage, and you really have to watch yourself so that you don't end up in jail, so that doesn't happen to you. If I were to end up in jail, I would need the help of everybody I know to get out immediately, because they don't give you controlled substances in jail. And the people that have died in jail, and I know I'd be one of them. 6 milligrams, you can't cold turkey. You can't even cold turkey 1 milligram. 6 milligrams, you're probably going to die, just to be honest. And if you don't, I mean, I'd be so shocked. But the thing is, this has stolen things from me. I don't want to just talk about the symptoms. I want to talk about my life. I stole my own life by drinking. I did. But, you know, I thought back then so stupidly, I believed that it took so many years. I'd at least be in my 40s before I developed a dependence on alcohol so bad that I would need to detox and all that. But not when you're drinking every day. And drinking yourself so much that you just pass out. And my husband was putting me to bed. And, so that was really stupid. That was me. I was doing something really stupid. But, you know, nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. And I've more than paid for that mistake, because it was then, when I quit drinking, that I got put on the Klonopin. And it was then that everything just went to shit, to be honest. What I've lost during this, I wanted to have a life. I always thought that I was going to end up doing something big. I knew that I wasn't going to be someone who, there's no shame in it, but I always felt like I was not going to be someone who was just going to have like a plant job or a fast food job. Yes, I did that when I was younger, but I planned on, I got my GED. I actually found out the courses, I only needed to take 2 courses in order to start taking college courses after that. Because when they say GED is equivalent to high school diploma, no, it's not. You actually, in order to go to college, you have to take extra courses to catch up, and then you can go to college. Just 2 courses, and then I was going to be able to go to college, and I had several things that I was considering doing, but I knew no matter which one I chose, I was going to work my way to the top of it, and I was going to get to where I made good money. Not just barely getting by, but good money. I've wanted to be a writer since before I could write. I had Polly Pockets when I was a little kid. My parents used to buy me these Polly Pockets, and I would make up stories that could last for weeks. So I've always wanted to be a writer, a novelist. And I've wrote things, and I've had fans of my story on fan sites, or, where you do what they call fan fiction stories. So you take someone that you're a fan of, and you make a story, and it's just a fan fiction. Everybody knows it's fiction, but I would write stories and people would love them, and so that gave me all the confidence that yeah, I can write books, I can do that. But I was also wanting to do something else. I'm a really good people person. I've always been good working with people. So I thought about something to do. It's funny now to think about it. I'm in therapy. I thought about something to do that involved counseling. But I never wanted to work, now, after all I've been through, I would never work for anybody that prescribed benzodiazepines. So I thought about becoming a life coach. I had a life coach at one point. It was $100 an hour to talk to them. So, for them that's good. For you, you're going broke. But if I could be a life coach, and there are people out there who can afford a life coach, I could do that, make money doing that, and write books, and work at my own time. Or I could there's so many, the possibilities were just so many. I considered even being a lawyer, because I'm really good at arguing. I'm really good at making a point. I'm really good at seeing through bullshit. And I would be a good lawyer. I would. But no matter what I was going to do, I was going to do something that was going to be big. Something that was going to make my parents proud of me. It's been very important to me my whole life that my parents were proud of me. And now it's like, I know, like, my mother's proud of me just for surviving from day to day. She's heard so much about the struggles that I go through, and, tells me that she's just proud of me that I'm surviving. But for me, there's obviously just a part of me that feels like that's not enough. I want to do something else. I wanted to get myself to a point where, my parents would never even have to think about going to a nursing home when they got older, because I was going to take care of them. I can't picture my parents in a nursing home. And it's years away. My parents are not like that old. It's not like that. But still, I wanted to work my way up to making enough money to have a big enough home somewhere nice where, I could take care of them. And, but I just wanted them to be proud of me. And I don't want them to just be proud that I'm surviving. I want them to be proud of the life I've made for myself. Recently, I had gotten jealous. I had seen, my dad had visited my sister. And I know that she's always been really productive, a hard worker. And I'm proud of her. And I know my dad's proud of her too, as he is his other daughter, his oldest. And I know he's proud of them. And I got jealous, though, when I saw, these pictures where my dad was spending time with my sister, because I know she's so productive, and that's what I wanted to be. What I still want to be, and what I will someday be when I am off these benzos. But it's going to take years to do that, to get to that point. But I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to make something out of my life. I just want to make sure that my parents are still able to understand and appreciate and be proud of what I'm doing. When I saw that, I got jealous because I thought, I bet my dad is so proud of her, but, not me. Because what am I doing with my life? Just sitting around. I live from bed to bed. I live with fatigue so bad I wake up in the morning feeling like I just ran a marathon already. Like right now, I'm leaning up against this couch. It's like a couch pillow or like a chair pillow and a pillow because my back is so tired and I haven't done anything today. I'm just always tired. So tired. And I put on such a brave face, especially in front of my dad, because my dad doesn't really know how to deal with it. He can't stand the thought of his daughter being, in pain or going through something like this. So I've always tried to put on a brave face, put my makeup on, put on the best outfit that I've got, and really overdoing it, going places and doing things. But I still felt like it was worth it to spend that time with my dad. But not being honest about the horrific life I'm leading. Really. And it's time for me to stop doing that. I can't expect people to understand unless I'm being honest. Being honest, it is hell. My life is hell. I'm going to have to start this taper. I'm going to keep going until I get to the end, but it's going to be years. And there's just no other way. You want to know more about that? Research it. Look it up. There's plenty of YouTube videos. There's the Ashton Manual, as I said before. Just type in benzodiazepine withdrawal syndrome and the Wikipedia page right there. It's terrifying because it's real. The symptoms and the duration of how long it lasts is insane. And yes, people do think about and consider suicide going through benzo withdrawal syndrome. They do. I have. But I don't anymore. And it's been a while since I have, because I need to not only stay alive for my parents, my children, my husband, but the top 4 people, my children and my parents. And I'm going to stay alive, and I'm going to get through this. But it is going to take years. And I need understanding. Understanding of the fact that I have agoraphobia. There are times where I feel better and I can go out and I can do things. And then there are times where I have to cancel plans at the last minute because I just can't leave the house. I never would have imagined the way everything, all of this, the way that it messes with your mind, the way that it controls your thoughts, and your thoughts aren't your own anymore. I never would have imagined that was possible. And I don't believe that anyone could imagine it unless they've been through it. So I understand if it's hard to believe. I mean, it would be hard for me to believe listening to someone else tell me about this. And that this is what they were going through. So I understand. It's hard for me to this day to believe what I'm going through and how bad it is. But when I start tapering, I'm going to get to the point of I can't visit you. I can't go and visit. It's going to hurt. So come and visit me. But on certain days, you're not going to come and see me and I'm going to be doing great. I might be pacing. I've spent times where I paced the floor all day until my legs would give out and I'd still feel the akathisia, which is where you feel like you can't be still. So I'd, be shaking my hands, my arms, trying to just move, keep moving, keep moving. I could not be still. I go through that really bad. I go through, I go through all kinds of symptoms. I had this one symptom where I had a swelling sensation in my throat. Really horrific when you feel like your throat's swelling up, like it feels like it's going to swell shut. I actually went and I had an upper GI to try to find if there was anything, and they didn't find anything. The very next day, I was in with my ENT, and they did a nasal endoscopy. Put lidocaine up my nose to numb it, put a camera up there, and I had to swallow the camera, but I couldn't feel any of it. And they were looking at everything. They didn't see any lumps. It's a sensation, but it's terrifying. Air hunger, that's a symptom, where you're breathing, but you feel like you're not because you can't feel the air going in your lungs. It's like your lungs are numb. So you feel like you're not breathing. The thing is that you can say, well, I'm not going to go to the hospital over that symptom because I know it's air hunger. Well, you can't do that because there's also a symptom where you have actual respiratory distress. It does that. It causes weakness in every muscle, including muscles in your lungs. So you got to go and get this stuff checked out. You know, you watch videos. If you watch other videos, you'll hear other people talk about how, they've been to the emergency room. I had a friend that I sort of gotten to know that had been to, she said she'd been to the hospital 54 times in 2 years. That's just like me. When I was tapering before, what got me SSI was when the judge looked at how many times I'd been to the hospital and how all the procedures I had done to try to find things that were wrong with me, why I was having all these things, even muscle pain, why I was seeing, a doctor, a neuro doctor for the muscle pain. When they see all the things that I was doing, they realize, this was taking up my whole life. Between hospitals and doctors, it was taking up my whole life. It was very obvious that I couldn't lead a life. Actually, when you get disability or SSI, there's someone in the room there that tells the judge what they think you can do. And the person in the room with me told the judge he couldn't think of a single job that I would be capable of doing because of all my symptoms, physical and mental, all of it. Just, he couldn't think of a single one. The judge was very kind to me because he realized, I was going through so much. It was right there in front of him. And so, yes, I'm going to be probably frequenting the emergency room again when I start tapering again. But right now, I'm still in tolerance to a degree. I'm in enough tolerance to where my emotions are jacked up. So when I'm sad, I'm devastated. When I'm irritated, I'm enraged. And just a paranoid thought can do that. I never hurt anyone. I never hit anyone. I never have a desire to do that. I would never hurt my children. Ever. Because I'm staying alive for my children as I am for my parents and my husband. I'm staying alive for the people in my life that care. I'm lucky enough to have friends. I have a friend that lives down the road from me. We became friends, and she does so much for me. And, I mean, we do a lot for each other. We're always there for each other. But she's done so much for me since I met her, including being a listening ear, driving over here in the middle of the night when she's got to go to work at 6 o'clock in the morning. And driving over here in the middle of the night because I was losing my mind. And how much of a blessing she's been that I've considered her. She is definitely, in my heart, my sister. Because I've got family who's never been there for me as much as she has. Everything she's done for me makes her my sister. And if you have an issue with her, you have an issue with me. She's rare. You don't find people like that. And so, I hold on to that. It hurts when people don't understand and people aren't even willing to try to. They don't want to. As I post this one video a lot where this woman that she explains, stop shying away from people like us. We don't want to be forgotten just because we're sick. It's not fair. Life's not fair. You know, but I mean, I've learned that. Believe me, I've learned that. I've got a firm grasp. Life is not fair. But I don't need people, like, oh, that's negative. I don't, let's talk about something positive. If you're only interested in being in my life when I can be positive, leave me the hell alone. Get off my friends list. Don't ever call me again. Because I'm going through hell, and if you can't be there with me, for me, during my struggle, you do not deserve me during my best, and you will not, parent or not, be in my life when I do get to where I'm through with this. You don't just get to ignore me through this and or talk to me, but let's not talk about this. You don't get to do that. And then come and whenever I'm better and all of a sudden, no. I'm sorry, but let me just say it. Fuck you to anybody who calls themselves a friend or family member who thinks they can do me that way. If you can't be there for me going through hell, then I don't want you to be there for me at all. And don't expect me to be there for you. For my parents, they have other kids, but I've been there for both of my parents more than all three of their other kids combined, even in benzo withdrawal. This much hell, I've still done it. My dad had triple bypass. I was in the middle of withdrawal really bad, and I found out he was having a triple bypass. He told me not to come to the hospital until the next day. And there, for me, the fear of maybe there won't be a next day. This is a major surgery. I wasn't going to do that, so I drove up there. I drove in pouring rain. Half the people were sitting on the side of the interstate because it was pouring so hard you couldn't see. Everybody who was driving had their emergency lights on. I drove there. I found the hospital I'd never been to. I found it. I got to my dad, and my other sister came, and it took her, longer. She lives in Tennessee, and she had to travel all the way to North Carolina, but nothing was going to stop her. And, I will always do my best for the people that I love, but I won't take any less from the people that I love. That's not right. I love myself enough to let you go if you're not going to be there for me because I'm struggling and you don't really want to hear the negativity or you feel like you can't take seeing me going through what I'm going through. Well, I still need you. I still need your love in my life. I still need to hear from you. I still need to know that you care about my struggle, not just waiting for me to get better before you get close to me again. Screw that. Anyway, but this has been devastating. This whole experience has been devastating on my life. By the time I get better, I will either be 40 or damn near 40. So that means my 20s and 30s were just all thrown away. First by me drinking, and then by these benzos that I was never warned about what could happen to me. So I'm going to have to start my life late in life. In the meantime, I need the support of those that love me. Don't claim to love me and not be there. I'm not talking about being there all the time. I'm talking about call me, ask me how I'm doing, things like that. Visit me when you can. Because, yes, it's hard for me to visit people. It's hard for me to go up a mountain. It's hard for me. It's scary. I don't even want to go outside of my home most of the time. And when I do, I go around town. But going out of the state, going up the mountain, going, and visiting my parents, it's hard. Really hard. I push myself to do it. But I'm going to have to start tapering. And I'm just going to have to say, I'm not going to be able to do it. So you really love me, you really care, find the time to come and see me. Because I would do it for you. I have. And I think of plenty of times where someone else was supposed to be there. When my dad's dog died, my sister, well, my mother's daughter, not my father's daughter. Not my father's, she's tried to destroy my father. Not my father's daughter. But my mother's daughter was supposed to help him to take his dog to have him put to sleep. And I loved that dog very much, and I went up there to support my dad. It was one of the most devastating days of my life, but I did it to be there for my dad. I would do anything to be there for my parents, for my kids, for my husband. I'll do anything to be there. If I can do it, I'm going to do it. If I got to push myself, I'm going to do it. But I need love and support while I'm going through this. It's going to take several years. It is. Because I've tried 3 times already going at a faster pace. I'm going to have to go at a very slow pace just to make it through. Just to be able to get through and to continue tapering to the very end. Which is what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to enjoy the rest of my life. No one's going to stop me from being positive then. I mean, because I'll have an appreciation for life that most people will never have. Just an appreciation to be able to sit down and not feel panic or agony in my muscles, in my chest, my back muscles mainly, and fatigue all the time. I can't wait to go hiking again. The things that I love doing. I'm an active person. This has also stripped me of my independence. So I can't even be independent. I'm very dependent on those in my life. And I hate that. I wasn't raised to be dependent on other people. I was raised to depend on myself, which is good. You know, I was raised right. And, but this happened, and it's taken everything. Everything but my life. And I do have the love for my kids, and they love me, and yeah. So, that's my story. And I'm just going to go ahead and end this. There's not a whole lot more to say at this time. If you want to know more, call me up. Come visit me. Whatever. We'll talk about it. But don't ignore me, because I can only handle so much more of that before I'm cutting people out of my life, regardless of our relationship and who we are to each other. I've had plenty of family and friends turn their backs on me during this, where I've completely lost them. They didn't believe me. Now they're starting to, because they're starting to see all the proof and knowing people that are going through it. And it wasn't enough just to believe me. But yeah, I am going to close this with what I've said. So thanks for watching.